Shalom, shalom, everyone. We're going to be going over the calendar, obedience, in Acts 15. Um, I usually don't do like any type of teachings or stuff like that. And it's not because I'm afraid or anything. It's just that's not my thing. I'm more of a chronicler. I'm more of bringing together various teachers that come together and then I interject. But this one, I wanted to share because I learned so much doing the calendar. Oh, shalom, Vinny. How you doing? Um, I learned so many things with keeping or doing the calendar this year that I hadn't learned. And I pulled out all the stops and was printing everything out because I wanted it to I wanted it to be right. I've done it before, and I'm not saying that it wasn't right before. I did it to the best of my ability. And then I had some growing that I had to do, right? So um, before I used to go from the dark moon um, for the new moon and then count 14 days directly after that. Well, I got convicted about the sliver. And so here's the thing, we know that the dark moon is the end phase of that current moon. So you have a waning, that's when it starts to show more and more and more. The height of that is the full moon, and then you have the waxing, which it starts to show less and less and less from that full moon, and then a complete nothing. And so that's the completion of that moon cycle. Okay, so Shalom Yehukanai. So that's the completion of that moon cycle. So it wouldn't be right to start a day one before you see the sliver, which is the beginning of the waxing phase of the moon that's coming again. So, but then you can't count it directly after the dark moon because you don't know. Well, sometimes with the dark moon, it's like 8%, this percent. You won't see the sliver right the next day, so you have to wait and see the sliver. The sliver showed last night. And I posted a article where this guy in Guatemala took the picture of the moon. And you can see this like crescent there. So that is why I said that is that sliver basically let us know that, okay, this is the new moon, this is the new year, okay, after the spring equinox, okay? So I'm going to show the calendar that I did. See, I'm going to go to the Chrome tab because I just love just looking at that. It's not showing on the, okay, I'll run the window. Oh, I know what I have to do. Hold on. Okay, now come here. Chrome tab, just a moment. Ooh. Oh, here it is. Okay, so I did it a different format this year than what you guys have seen before. Before I tried to do like one little snapshot of what it was, okay? But this year I just decided to separate spring feast and list the days of the month and the first days of the month, meaning that it's brought in the evening before, okay? So spring feast is Aviv or Aviv 1, March 25th at the sighting of the moon, so that evening. So March 26th, if you go down here, would be the day. And that's why I noted in here, note the first day of the month and fall feasts are brought in the night before. Only the day portion is accounted for in the secular dates. So I'm only accounting for the day portions here, not the evening portions. The evenings are the evening before. So that's why it says March 25th at the sighting of the moon. Okay, Passover is brought through 7 days later. So you want to count 7 days from the first day, and we get April. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, 14 days. I'm looking at 14 days, and we get April 8th, running the eve of April 7th. Then prep day will be that day portion of April 8th, and then we go into unleavened bread the evening of April 8th to the day of April 9th. April 9th is the first day of unleavened bread, and then it goes on for um, 7 days, and then that 8th day. So evening of April 15th. First fruits is the Shabbat during unleavened bread. This is where we start counting the Omer. And then Pentecost, brought in the eve, 7 Sabbaths later, would be May 31st, day portion, and then the evening portion, May 30th. Okay, so this is how I checked myself. I want to be clear. When I was doing this before, I ended up, I don't know if I was before or after, I don't know, but I wasn't getting my 3 days and 3 nights. So we know Christ is slain and buried before the sun goes down. So this is April 8th day. Okay, so April 8th night is the first night. The 9th is the second night. The 10th is the third night. And then he arises the day portion of April 11th. So that's 3 days, that's 3 nights. And let's count the days. April 9th day, April 10th day, and then April 11th day are 3 days. So 3 nights and 3 days. Also, I checked to see if Passover started on, or if there was a full moon during Passover. I forgot the reason why. There's a source that said that there was a full moon during the Passover. I can't remember where I'm getting that from. It was one time I have an article on the page, and I think me and Ashanti and Ron were talking about what was the Kodesh moon. And I found this article, and I have to post that up. But anyway, so April 7th is actually the full moon of that cycle, and it'll be a pink moon. Okay. So I was able to get my 3 days and 3 nights, and then I got the full moon on the Passover evening. So this is where Christ's disciples say, where should we make ready the Passover? And they go to, I believe, Mark's house, because he says, go to where the guy is carrying water, and that will be where we have the Passover. So they were indeed eating a Passover meal. So after that Passover meal, there's a prep day. So in that day, business can return to normal, but everything has to be concluded by the end of that day. And then unleavened bread goes in. Now, I know that there are 2 accounts, and one says during the days of unleavened bread, but there wouldn't have been a trial or anything within that 7-day that 7-day feast. You know, it's not going to happen that it had to happen before, but we knew that they had a Passover meal. So Passover was actually kept. Wait, hold on, before I go there. So then I did the first days of the month, and it's usually from the dark moon. And then you would add 2 days to get the day portions. And so that's what I did all the way through, so I could get the 7th month to Shiri. And then I can calculate the fall feast. And you see October 18th. Again, this is accounting for the day portions. October 27th, November 1st for tabernacles, and okay, this is the 8th day, November 7th. Okay, so yeah, that's what I did. That's my method. Some people go from that dark moon, saying that it was a new moon, and a friend of mine, Richard, he did point out in the almanacs that the new moon was always called that because you could see the full shading of the moon. However, which meant darkness. People don't know how to read almanacs. and I got that. But when you think about the cycle of a moon, we know that that dark moon is the ending cycle for the moon, for that full moon that that waned and then waxed. Okay. Let me get out of here. So, okay, so then he said that he agrees about the sliver. My understanding is the feast fall on the full moon, and if we count out back 15 or 14 days back, we land on a sliver. That's exactly true, and that's exactly true for, I mean, any month. And this is how we see that. So I at first was going with the dark moon, and then I started researching why people do the sliver, and it's just that basic understanding of the cycle of a moon, you know, and so I started going from the sliver. I got convicted about that, and so this is how I'm calculating right now. Now, here's the other thing that I noticed, that when I calculated that, the reason why the day portion, um, in order to get the day portion, you have to get the night portion. Well, you don't know when you're going to see the sliver. You have to see it first. Then you know, oh, this is New Year. Now, you can, of course, mathematically guess it after a while, because I started using mathematical formulas and I was like, whoa, okay, this is working out, you know, every time I do it. But you would have to see it for the people, it would be at the sighting of the sliver. So you have to see it, and then that's the evening, and then the day. And so that further convinced me about, you know, when does the Sabbath begin? And I know that this is a hot topic in Israel. Um, People believe that, well, the Sabbath day, the day portion of the Sabbath, is the day at the rising of the sun. I agree with that. The 24-hour cycle starts in the evening, and in the evening is how you even start the first of any month, because you'll see the sliver. Well, not the sliver. You won't see. Well, will you? Yeah, you will. You will see the sliver every month. So you would know that that is a new month. So I'm more convinced of that. And every time you do the feast, you're going to see those things. Okay. So it was every time I do the calendar, and everybody should be trying to uh, everyone should be trying to calculate the calendar. Okay. You don't know who you're going to be around. You don't know if you're going to be around people when things go down. Things are going down now. Now we have the internet up, and that's all good. But what if we didn't? Because we know that the internet is tripping lately, and we're hoping that this thing don't go down, because so many people are relying on it at the same time. How would you know what to look for to even know what month you're in? So the more practice that you get, the more that you'll start to learn, and the easier it'll become to do it. Because it was real easy for me this time. I just had to get one frame of thought, like I have to see the sliver, that's the day portion, but that's the evening. And so once I got that, it took me about 30 minutes to do the rest of the calendar. Okay. Obedience. I want to talk about obedience because all right, I'm going to tell you. Okay, so I go by Urban Apologist uh, show, just listening out for my name, you know, because it's brought up so often on that platform. So the question was, what sin do you avoid by not eating pork? Well, we know Leviticus 11 gave us the command on what the commands on what is clean and unclean. Other places tell us that swine is an abomination. Oh, I just went over the lunar calendar. Sorry, Clay, you missed it. Shalom, though. I just went over how I calculated it, and I'll just summarize real quick. I go from the sliver, so the sliver happened last night, and then so this would be the day portion of day one. Okay, so and then I count 14 days from there, and we get to April 7th, which is the full moon. This year it'll be a pink moon. And so that's how I knew I was right on that, because I landed right on the full moon. And then when he was cut off in the midst of the week, you look at Wednesday going into unleavened bread, and then I actually do get the 3 days and 3 nights that he was buried. So yeah. So next we're going to talk about obedience. So the question is, what do you avoid? What sin do you avoid by not eating pork? Well, Leviticus 11, and there's several other places that the word tells us that eating pork is an abomination, right? We shouldn't be doing it. So the sin that you're avoiding is disobedience. And so we can even go back to Genesis with that in the garden. Was it really a pomegranate or an apple or whatever fruit you believe that Adam and Eve ate that was giving them or opening their eyes? You know, some people would say, yes, I totally disagree. It was her act of disobedience that that disaligned her and Adam from the Most High. Okay, so disobedience is the thing that you avoid when you don't do that. I'm not really sure why a group of Christians, because I know Christians, like for real, because when I say I was church, I was church. Okay, I was church. So I have some of my students on my page. I have my old church was actually going to hire me as a math teacher because I was just trying to move from where I was. And they said, well, you used to be a member. What are you doing now? And I told them I follow the biblical holidays. And that's it. You know, I don't do Christmas, Easter, and all that. And so they were like, oh, okay, great. You know, it wasn't a problem. Obedience, or the desire to be obedient, is the maturation of the believer. Okay. The more that you develop your relationship with the Messiah, with the Most High, the more you want to obey him, and the more you can recognize him throughout your life, right? So you are maturing in faith when you say, what did he tell me to do? And you think about that. And I think, oh, what's that verse? Sorry, I'm not a Bible quoter like that. I'm pulling it up. Okay. I would have to do a lot here. But y'all know the verse I'm talking about when he's talking about that, you know, don't just be right in my presence, be right outside of my presence. And so when you seek the kingdom first, what are you doing? You're asking, what did he say? Okay. So obedience is the actual maturation of the believer. However, we have to understand that the law is not a salvation issue. It's not that you're going to go to hell. Well, I mean, Christ did say, get away from me, you workers of iniquity or lawlessness, right? Because in reality, let's look at it, Christians do practice some laws, right? They don't kill, they don't steal, or they say they don't kill, they don't steal, they don't do a lot of the things that's in the law, which they call the moral law, right? But what I'm saying here is that obedience is more about the circumcision of the heart than it is salvation. I'm gonna say that. And this is also, now people say we will be judged on that. Absolutely, we will be judged on our works, and there is no good work that is set apart from the law. There is any good work that you can think of is in that law, and the law is the will and the standard of the Most High. Okay. So with that being said, we will be judged. This is where the rewards, when Christ said that the rewards, I come with rewards. And so this is what Christ was talking about, that there's going to be a least and great in heaven. Okay. This is what he's talking about. This is the ordering of people. This is the hierarchy of people. Okay. And so that judgment comes from doing the works of the Most High, and that includes the law. Okay, and the law deals with particularly two things: loving your brother and loving the Most High. So that's what I'm going to say about obedience. It is actually going the second mile. This is the second mile, which Christians know about. The second mile is where you stop asking him what he can do for you, and you start asking him what you can do for him. And so, I mean, this phrase is all throughout the Christian church. Oh, I want to be a second mile Christian. But you don't understand that obedience is a part of that. Okay. Faith, our salvation comes through faith. All of our ancestors had faith, but we still hold to James 2. Faith without works is dead. Work phone. What is that? I don't know what that is. Why that's popping up. That's not my work phone. I don't know why that's popping up. But anyway, faith without works is dead. So we show our faith by our works. Okay. We're actually performing works because we love him, right? So I don't know why it keeps on getting twisted. Yes, we do say you have to obey the law. Yes, we do say. Now, when I started in 2013, guess what? I'm still going to the boiling crab because it hadn't been brought to my attention yet, Leviticus 11. Once I read Leviticus 11, guess what I started to do? My soul was convicted and I started keeping the dietary laws. Okay, which brings us to Acts 15. Now, there are some people who will disagree with me, and that's your right. You can have all the disagreement you would like, but I'm going to show a few things to back up my point. Okay, so let's get Acts 15 up. I'll go here. Let me take it out. Okay, and go here. Just a moment. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so something that Christians like to do a lot is they like to make it seem like the argument that Paul was having with law keepers about keeping the law was about whether or not that they should keep the law. That is not true. The argument back and forth is whether the law is the source of salvation. Okay, so let's read Acts 15. I'm just going to read from this version. And certain men came down from Judea and taught the brethren, unless you are circumcised according to the custom of Moses, you cannot be saved. Okay, so this tells you what it's about. It is not about whether the law is relevant or not. They're teaching that you cannot be saved, okay, if you don't keep circumcision. So they're making law keeping a salvation issue. Therefore, when Paul and Barnabas had no small dissension and dispute with them, they determined that Paul and Barnabas and certain others of them should go up to Jerusalem to the apostles and elders about this question. So being sent on their way by the church, they passed through Phoenicia and Samaria, describing the conversion of the Gentiles, and they caused great joy to all the brethren. And when they had come to Jerusalem, they were received by the church and apostles and the elders, and they reported all things that God had done with them. But some of the sect of the Pharisees who believed rose up, saying, "It is necessary to circumcise them and to command them to keep the law of Moses." Okay, the Jerusalem Council. So this is where we get into it. Now the apostles and elders came together to consider this matter. And when there had been much dispute, Peter rose up and said to them, "Men and brethren, You know that a good while ago God chose us among cho- let me start again. Men and brethren, you know that a good while ago God chose among us that by my mouth the Gentiles should hear the word of the gospel and believe. So God, who knows the heart, acknowledged them by giving them the Holy Spirit just as he did to us. And he made no distinction between us and them, purifying their hearts by faith. Okay. Now, therefore, why do you test God by putting a yoke on the neck of the disciples, which neither our fathers nor we were able to bear? But we believe that through the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ, we shall be saved in the same manner as they. Okay, so, Peter describes this as a yoke. Um, um, it is a yoke if you're doing so without the Holy Spirit. It is a yoke if you don't have full understanding. It is a yoke when you come into things and you're trying to keep all these laws, and it is a yoke when people start preaching, uh, step on a crack, you break your mother's back, application of the law. Okay, because it's not that. Okay, then all the multitude kept silent and listened to Barnabas and Paul, declaring how many miracles and wonders God had worked through them among the Gentiles. And after they had become silent, James answered, saying, Men and brethren, listen to me. Simon has declared how God at first visited the Gentiles out to take out of them a people for his name, a people for his name. Okay. And with this, the words of the prophets agree, just as it is written. After this, I will return and will rebuild the tabernacle of David, which has fallen down. I will rebuild its ruins. I will set it up so that the rest of mankind may seek the Lord, even the Gentiles who are called by my name, says the Lord who does all these things. 18. Known to God from eternity are all his works. Therefore, I judge that we should not trouble those from among the Gentiles who are turning to God, but that we write to them to abstain from things polluted by idols, from sexual immorality, from things strangled, and from blood. Now, people say, yeah, okay, so that's all they had to do. But listen, verse 21. For Moses has throughout many generations those who preach him in every city, being read in the synagogues every Sabbath. Okay, let's read 22, and then we're going to come back to 21. Then it pleased the apostles and elders. It pleased the apostles and elders, meaning that verse 21 was the solution. And we're going to talk about why in a minute. With the whole church to send chosen men of their own company to Antioch with Paul and Barnabas, namely Judas, who was also named Barsabas, and Silas, leading men among the brethren. Okay, so we're gonna stop there. So there were two sides. There was one saying, you got to keep this law. And the other side was like, no, they ain't going to be able to do all this. They're just coming into this truth. Let them come in and receive the salvation from Christ, through faith. Okay. And so this is the thing. So the solution was for Moses. Let's give them these four things in 20, and then 21. For Moses has throughout many generations those who preach him in every city, being read in the synagogues every Sabbath. So why would that be a solution? Why would the elders be pleased by that? Because if they're coming into the faith, they will be attending the what? They're more than likely on a Sabbath day going to be in a synagogue. They're more than likely on a Sabbath day, even from those who believe in Christ, going to be hearing what? Moses. Why? Because at a Sabbath service, I grew up Catholic. I say it all the time because the Catholic Church does a lot of stuff that you'll see at Passover. They do a lot of stuff. They just twist and turn it and make it different days and stuff like that. And so when you go to a Catholic Mass, they're going to have a first reading, second reading, and then the gospel. The first reading is from the Old Testament. The second reading is from the corresponding one from the New Testament. And then you read the gospel, which people normally stand for. Well, in a Sabbath service, they're going to read Moses, they're going to read Torah, and then they're going to read the corresponding prophets. Okay, so Torah is always going to be read. What is Torah? The law, statutes, and commandments. So they're going to, let's give them these four things. They're going to read the other stuff. And as they learn, that's why I gave this example of when I was first starting out in 2013 and how I got convicted by Leviticus 11. As they learn and they hear, faith comes by hearing. What? Hearing of the word of God, right? As they'll learn it throughout, the synagogues, because every synagogue is going to be reading out the Torah. And so to prove this further, I went to Discount Books. Oh, let me stop sharing. Let me turn on my camera. I went to Discount Books. This is somebody's tonight. This is somebody's bar mitzvah tonight, okay? And so something that I noticed, see, it says, it says on your confirmation. That confused me. I was like, is this person Catholic or what? But it was a gift from the Wise Fund. So I'm thinking this is, they might call that. But look, you see, these are the readings. These are the readings, Torah and then the prophets. Okay, Torah and then the prophets. These are all the readings you're going to be doing throughout this Tanakh. Not only that, there are certain verses in, I don't want to say, is it just the Tanakh and some of the historical books that are going to say, and this, and hold on for a minute. So, okay, something happened, I don't know yet. And then some places in one, and I'm gonna just type one up. Okay, I typed it in yesterday, like 2 Chronicles 32:32. It says, the other events of Hezekiah's reign and the acts of devotion are written in the vision of the prophet Isaiah, son of Amoz, in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel. So it tells you that where to go. This let me know before that, oh, you're not supposed to just be reading linear. This is like a circular type of reading that you're supposed to be doing. That's what I just like, ooh. Then I found this tonight and it confirmed it. So anyway, so that's me on Acts 15 and why, no, it's not a pass for Gentiles just to do those four things. It is an introductory part of Gentiles coming in to do those four things. Okay, they're going to be reading the Torah every Sabbath, which is the instruction every Sabbath. And as they go along, they will learn more and more. And through faith, they will be convicted and say, hey, these are the things that the Most High wants to do. And hopefully they get to, in closing, they get to the maturation of obedience, which comes through circumcision of the heart. So that's it for that. I just wanted to be real brief and I wanted to talk about it in detail. But also this Sunday, I'll be on SVDL talking with Outside the Cube, who is an atheist. And I just really wanted to always know. And I'm going to, see what he does know. I mean, we was talking a little bit yesterday and it was very cordial, or how he gets to atheism, how he get there. We're also going to be talking a little bit about feminism, and I'll be working on the PowerPoint to back some points up that I hope to make about that, because Outside the Cube says he's a feminist. He is a girl dad, so I figured, like, is that the root cause of it? And so that's something that we'll be asking and exploring, especially with those who are very passionate about it. And that's all I got. So Happy New Year, guys. We celebrated last night and it was just wonderful. Blew that so far. and it was great. So stay dedicated, stay focused, because there's people right now trying to get us off of our focus. And so I did like a chronicle thing for, I mean, just for the purposes that we don't have any of this stuff documented. Some people say it won't matter, but it does matter when, like, some people felt that, hey, you don't have to address them. And the thing is that for the most part, we don't. Sometimes I'll go on people's channels and stuff and have a conversation with them. We don't. And so we were just taken aback that at this time, during the coronavirus pandemic, that we would be a topic of conversation instead of helping people. So go ahead. I'm still creating the landing page. I'm not getting a lot of feedback, but I'm going to create it anyway, because I do know, Happy New Year, Vinny. I do know a lot of resources, but a lot of people don't. And so I'm going to set up different state ones too, where they can click on it and say, this is in my state, or maybe we can get somebody who's a representative who does know a lot about what goes on in their state to create a document that I can put in my drive and then upload as a hyperlink. Okay. So I'm still working on that. I think I should be done with that by Friday. Brother Shield says that we should not share that publicly because we got some haters and some spies and stuff like that. But for people who need a resource and need to know where to go, that would be something that will, work out. So with that, I say shalom, shalom. Stay safe and keep your eyes to those hills, and keep the Most High on your mind. Thank you.